Welcome viewers. Let's continue with our Kirralie Smith investigation, the law that changed women's rights. The cost of the legislative experimentation. When definitions quietly changed the debate. Have you ever felt as though an argument changed while nobody noticed? The words remain familiar, the conversation remains familiar, yet somehow the meaning underneath begins to move. And that's often how major legal transformations occur. Not through dramatic announcements, through definitions. While Australians were told the 2013 Gillard government amendments were about protection from discrimination, something deeper was taking place beneath the public discussion. The legal vocabulary itself was being expanded. Most citizens were focused on outcomes. Parliament was focused on legislation. But definitions would ultimately determine how both were interpreted. Years later, this is where Kirralie Smith's investigation would repeatedly return. Not to slogans, not to intentions, to words. Because words become policies. Policies become decisions. Decisions become consequences. As the amendments progressed, sex remained protected under Australian law. Yet gender identity was introduced as an additional protected characteristic. And at first glance, many assumed the relationship between the two was obvious. But legal systems do not operate on assumptions. They operate on interpretation. And the challenge was not what the definitions meant on the day they were passed. The challenge was what future courts, institutions, departments, schools, sporting bodies, regulators and tribunals would eventually decide they meant. The parliamentary debate largely focused on the immediate protection being offered. Far less attention appeared directed toward future situations where sex and gender identity claims might point toward different outcomes. And this question would become central to Kirralie Smith's public advocacy years later. If both characteristics are protected, what happens when a decision maker believes only one can prevail? Which protection governs? Which boundary remains? Which definition controls access? And the question seems obvious now. Yet, in 2013, they remained largely hidden beneath the broader moral consensus surrounding inclusion. The ceiling fan hums above a committee room, papers shuffle, votes are recorded, definitions are approved. And few people in the room can fully see the future implications. And that's the nature of legislative experimentation. The consequences are rarely visible when the wording is drafted. They emerge years later when ordinary people begin living inside the definitions Parliament created. And once definitions begin reshaping reality, changing them becomes far harder than the creating of them. In the next episode, we'll look at when the activists entered the legislative process.